to the great mysteries of our galaxy. Look at this. We here in New England were treated to quite a sight this week as the Aurora Borealis, or northern lights, were visible just miles from Boston. Just one of the many amazing time lapses. This one was shot in Franconia, New Hampshire. And astronaut Scott Kelly shot an even more amazing video of the sight from space, where he's in the middle of a year-long stay. Joining me now to talk about these and other assorted, otherworldly phenomena is Kelly Beatty. Kelly is senior editor at Sky and Telescope magazine. Kelly, it's great to see you.
Always.
You know my dream in life is to see this. Why were people in New England, not me yet, why were people able to see this?
It got far enough down from the poles. It meant that the storm, the solar storm, the attack that we were under from the sun was particularly intense. The sun emits this blast wave of protons and electrons and magnetic fields at like 500 miles a second. Races across space. The Earth is protected by its own magnetic field, but some of that stuff, the blast wave, leaks in, cascades into the atmosphere, and causes the aurora.
I was right that just, even though I read all your stuff and everybody else's, that you got to get away from light and all that sort of thing, literally just miles from Boston, people were able to see this, correct?
Yeah, I was outside getting bit by mosquitoes. Unfortunately, it was cloudy here for most of us that particular night. But farther west, where it was clear, it was great.
And is there any way to, I've been reading a lot of things that I don't understand. Is there any way to predict more than X number of days in advance the likelihood of this being visible so people could actually plan a little bit?
Not more than X, like 2. What we do is we have spacecraft that watch the sun, and when one of these burps happens, we see it coming. We can kind of time when it's going to arrive here at the Earth. And if the magnetic handshake is right, you know, the sun's field and our field have to link up. Then we get this cascade of particles into the atmosphere. The stronger the storm, the farther south it goes.
How often does this happen in New England that it's visible, roughly?
You know, more often than you might think.
Well,
5 or 10 times a year.
5 or 10 times a year?
Yeah, absolutely.
So essentially, if we know 2 days in advance, we're willing to do the thing where you move away from cities and places with lots of, the odds are fairly decent.
Yeah, it might not be Star Wars spectacular, but there'll be a glow in the sky that you can see.
Speaking of spectacular, I assume if it was not Aurora Borealis week, if you were to tell me, which you're about to, that Venus and Jupiter, the 2 brightest planets, are about to converge, at least in terms of our vision, imminently, any day now, in a few days, that would be the huge star story of the week. What's exactly happening?
So from our point of view, Venus and Jupiter are going to line up in the sky. Jupiter's far, far away, but from this line of sight, they're going to, in the western sky right after sunset, you can't miss it. In fact, you should start looking now because day by day, they're going to scooch a little closer. June 30th is the time. Audience participation. Hold your arm out with your pinky up.
I can do that.
That pinky will cover both of them in the sky, 1/3 of a degree apart on June 30th.
How often does that? That's the kind of thing it sounds like people like you are going to say in history 3,000 years ago when that happened.
Once in 5 million years is not the answer.
What is
it actually
the answer?
happens pretty often.
It
It
does?
happened last August. It's going to happen again in October. So there's nothing mystical or anything like that about it. But it is doggone pretty, and I think people should go look for it.
Okay, and we only have 60 seconds left. Explain to me in English, if you can. We're approaching this New Horizon thing. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's
Is approaching Pluto.
Right.
But to get to Pluto, it's not really going to Pluto. It's going to Jupiter and then being slingshot, whatever that means. Yeah. What does that mean in English?
So,
and what's the rush also?
It's taken 9.5 years to get out there. It's a long ways away, more than 3 billion miles. And it used Jupiter's gravity to shorten the trip time. It's like a great connection at Dallas. And so on July 14th, Bastille Day, it's going to pass about 10,000 miles from Pluto. Cameras are going to record this mystical world that for 85 years we've been trying to figure out what it's all about. We're going to know.
Okay, I want you to raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Say, I, Kelly Beatty.
I, Kelly Beatty.
Promise you, Jim Browdy.
Promise you, Jim Browdy.
Now put up the picture of the Aurora Borealis again. That I will ensure that at some point in the near future, you see that. Is that a deal?
I will ensure that if you go to Iceland, you will see it.
It's a deal.
Even if I have to hang a picture in front of you.
I'll do. No, it's not good, Kelly Beatty. It's great to see you from Sky and Telescope.